because I'm sick to death of all this business about a COVID budget. We had it over and over again last night, boringly repetitive. This is not a COVID budget or a coronavirus budget. As that we're being brainwashed, of course, we hope. They hope we'll believe that, just as they hope we'll believe that this is a pandemic and look out, you're all going to die. Not one political leader, and I've been saying this, haven't I, for months, since February, has said 99% of the cases are mild. Now, for example, I keep repeating what Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister, said on March 15. For the majority, this is what he said, there it is on the screen, around 8 in 10, it'll be a mild illness and it will pass. He said, however, for older Australians and those who are more vulnerable, it's a far more serious virus, and that is our concern. He said, our aim in all of this is to protect the most vulnerable, the most at risk. Well, what did we do? We didn't do that. And so suddenly, in an overreaction, and we had all this hysteria and alarmism and fear, everything is locked down, everything. And the economy is ground to a halt. Businesses put out of business, workers are put out of work, and suddenly we feel that the whole world is about to end. So what have we got last night now? I mean, this is humbug. This notion about a coronavirus budget is absolute humbug. So, unsurprisingly, last night, in order to try to correct the mess that's been created by government, Scott Morrison said, protect the vulnerable. Well, let the rest get on with their lives. But no, everything was shut down. The cities of Australia became morgues. And there are some businesses that still aren't open and may never open. And there are thousands of people, millions, 1.5 million. That means 3.5 million on JobKeeper. And this has all happened. And so suddenly last night, what are they saying? They didn't tell you this. They said, oh, well, we're in a bit of a mess here now. So now they're throwing money everywhere simply to avoid massive unemployment queues and business bankruptcy. So if you chuck some money at an apprentice and you pay business money to employ people, or you open more university places, could you believe that? Because those people won't go on the unemployment list. And you can't win an election with unemployment above 10%. Now, these words are used, aren't they? We have monetary policy and fiscal policy. Monetary policy is where they change interest rates. Well, interest rates are almost zero. Fiscal policy is about expenditure. Well, let me tell you something about fiscal policy. It's got nothing to do with economic health. Nothing. Fiscal policy is about ideology and politics. Ideology, where once upon a time they thought a Liberal government would not spend as if the money was going out of style. But politically, fiscal policy helps us put people on side. Money in the pocket, aren't they good? They keep giving us this dough. Oh, it's borrowed, don't worry about it. We just hope this works. We should never have been in this position. And still, we haven't had one politician say to Australia, listen, the good news is 99% of these cases are mild. There are, as I speak to you, 4 people in Australia seriously ill. But we had last week, I told you about it, evidence that figures in Victoria were doctored. Why? Well, to justify the alarmism at the beginning. When will this end? But more importantly, what will the end look like? When will someone give us our lives back? We can look after our own health. We're not stupid. They announced in the budget last night another $27 billion for education. Spending all this money and then treating us as if we're stupid. We know how to look after ourselves. We know what the Prime Minister said on the 15th of March. There are vulnerable people, the elderly. We'll look after them. We didn't. And I'll be talking about that aged care issue later on in the program. But now, having been made prisoners in a so-called liberal democracy, freedoms taken from us, the very freedoms, I've said many times, that men and women died for. Now we are prisoners again, prisoners of debt. And the government still controlling our lives. You are dependent on us now. We're the ones shoveling it out to you. And they love it. They love it. We are, I'm telling you, been around a bit. We're creating a dangerous environment here, perpetuating the view that government have the answers. Are you kidding me? Those who created the problem and the disproportionate response now reckon they have the answer. And the mournful presentation by the Treasurer last night made me think we were at a funeral. Perhaps we were. Is our nation and all its wealth and opportunity and hope, are these being buried in fear, alarmism and debt? We want leaders to give us hope, to breathe hope. That's what a leader's job is. But our leaders have made us dependent on them. Not for me, I'm telling you. This kind of world. Have a listen to this. This is Josh Frydenberg last night. It's a dirge. Here he is.
In 2020, Australians have been tested like never before. Flood, fires, drought, and a global pandemic. So many Australians, through no fault of their own, are doing it tough. Lives have been lost. Businesses have closed. Jobs have gone. Our cherished way of life has been put on hold. We are a resilient people, a proud nation, and we will get through this together.
Well, all we lacked was the violins. I mean, you don't get this presentation at funerals. Oddly enough, this week, the British Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, spoke at the Conservative Party conference. Listen to the change of tone here. This is the British Chancellor of the Exchequer.
But more than the measures themselves, it is the values behind them that I want to impress upon you. Conservatives believe in the importance of community and belonging. We believe in personal responsibility and pragmatism. We believe in the nobility of work and free enterprise. And we believe in the unbreakable bond of union that unites the four nations of our United Kingdom. Our values are old and true and have withstood tests of strife, of terror, and even war. They are timeless because they are a wisdom earned over generations. And they are universal because they are rooted in the fundamental belief that individual freedom enables both the greatest achievement and the gentlest kindness. People looked at us last December and saw this Conservative Party. They saw a party whose values and priorities were aligned with those of the British people.
Well, there you are. That's the 40-year-old Rishi Sunak. The language is significant, isn't it? We believe in personal responsibility and pragmatism. Personal responsibility. None of that last night. The government's here to look after you. To the tune of over $500 billion has been handed out since February. We believe in the nobility of work and free enterprise, he said. Our values are old and true. They've withstood the test, he said, of strife and terror and even war. He said they're timeless because they are a wisdom earnt over generations. He said, and they're universal. Well, they are universal. I'll tell you what, we've got a bit of waking up to do. Let me just say this. Look, the challenges we face today are not those that I heard last night. I want to say this to you wherever you are and wherever you're watching. Come on, Australia. Look, I'm not in the dressing room, I know, but hang on. This is not us. We don't want to live as handmaidens of government. We don't want to talk enterprise and effort. We want to practice it. We want government out of our lives. Government is there to build schools and hospitals and look after our defence, keep the nation safe. It is not there to bribe us into voting for them because they will put more of someone else's money in our pocket than the other mob will. Now, come on, Australia. We ought to pledge ourselves not to take someone else's money. While we've got an able body and a willing mind, for God's sake, get out there and fend for ourselves. I know it's a cliche, but that's the sort of thing that made Australia great. We were workers, not loafers. We were givers, not takers. We need young people to be givers and workers. And I'm sorry, handing out free money doesn't help that. The Liberal Party says it's the child of Sir Robert Menzies. Menzies faced a greater economic crisis post-World War II than we face now. Debt was 120% of GDP. Here today, it's 55%. Menzies said in 1945 that the first impulse of a Liberal government in times like these, after the war, should be, and I quote, to seek the private enterprise answer, to help the individual help himself, to create a climate, economic, social and industrial favourable to his activity and growth, unquote. Nothing there about asking government, let alone government splashing money around. I said on Monday, and I'm sorry, we've lost our way. We got it wrong at the outset. The response to this virus was totally out of proportion to the danger. And our leaders need to go back and do a bit of reading of history. What do you think? Alan at skynews.com.au or text me 0414 000 848.